Hello and welcome to today's video. Now, it's out of the norm for me to make a video that isn't a review video, but I've really wanted to make a short piece going over my ranking system for Transformers figures and how I might be able to change it. Now, the current system feels a bit archaic to me, it's out of 5 stars, and to break down what each ranking actually means is something I've really given some thought, So I want to look at things and be comparative to when they came out and what standards were in place, rather than comparing old stuff to new figures or things that kind of never existed at the time. It's all in the effort of trying to be fair. So the breakdown is as follows. 1 out of 5 stars typically means bad. There's much room for improvement and also no redeeming qualities. Almost, so maybe there's 1 or 2 things that I like, but generally I consider the thing to be quite bad. 2 out of 5 generally refers to something serviceable depending on factors like price point, size, release year. It will vary depending on what the figure lacks comparative to its contemporaries, right? So things that came out at the same size or same time period, even if those things are the same size class and they came out before it, maybe a couple years, it's all comparative. So, i.e., one of my Real Gear Robot reviews has articulation at a 2 out of 5 because it misses several things that a bird former at that size could have had. But given the price point and the small figures of 2007 and prior, I could probably excuse it, but these are issues like that, little things that I think could have been done better, but could be somewhat excusable. Now, 3 out of 5 generally means that a figure is the middle of the road, right? Literally, it's bam smack in the middle. Now, nothing I truly like with a figure that's a 3 out of 5, but it's serviceable. This typically changes depending on release dates, especially when talking about factors like value for money and articulation. 4 out of 5 refers to something I really find enjoyment in and I think is praiseworthy, whether it's just good engineering, a visually appealing figure, or something that just stands out positively, comparative to releases from the same time period. Things like play factor can also be incorporated into any ranking decision, because at the forefront of it, Transformers were originally kids' toys before Hasbro realized, what, adult collectors are everywhere, we can milk them. Now, finally, a 5 out of 5 on the old scale would mean truly excellent in kind of the category it's in, You could pose like crap but have a great aesthetic. It happens. If I were to review some of the robot replicas from the, the Revenge of the Fallen toy line, it's definitely something I think that you could have a really good aesthetic and just kind of pose horribly. It could happen, but generally that's what a 5 in a category means. Now, as for averages and how I like to determine a figure's overall ranking, I don't want to be ranking figures at like 4 1/4 stars, I just kind of round down to 4 at that point because it keeps everything simple. But the issue with this is it's not really allowing for an accurate representation of how I feel about things that are marginally better than something else, So, say a figure is a 4.25, right? That's higher than a 4, obviously, but if that was the medium when I was writing the review and like trying to figure out how I felt about everything, because I end up rounding it down, I'm kind of saying that I like it just as much as a figure that I'd have given a 4 anyway, which isn't an accurate representation of how I feel about that thing, because I actually rounded down from 4.25. So we're looking to solve little discrepancies like that, things that nag me. And that's really just it, So as for my idea of a new ranking system, I want to base it on a 1 to 10, alright? And here's a good old breakdown of it all. So 1 out of 10 means bad, period, right? Nothing more to be said. 2 out of 10, it's a bit better than bad, but it's far from good still. 3 out of 10, maybe a good word or two to be had, but it's just not going to cut it if you're a 3 out of 10. Now, 4 out of 10 is a bit below average, your average stuff is a 5 out of 10. A lot of things would fall into that category, if I'm being honest, but 4 out of 10 could be manageable, 5 out of 10, I wrote this as mid, literally. just really it, you know. 6 out of 10 is above average for the time, but worth the extra point, you know. It could be little things the figure does that kind of give it that extra point. Or maybe I just like it, you know. Bias happens. That is the whole idea of reviewing something, providing your opinions, you know, because we all like different things, there is bias in all of us. 7 out of 10 is something I would consider generally good, you know, something I like for whatever reason. Could be articulation, aesthetic, the value for money could be really good, but everything else could be poo. Or maybe everything else is solid, but, you know, little things can really make me like a figure more. That's how you can get a 7 out of 10. If you're a 8 out of 10, great figure, you know, probably across all categories, you know, or maybe you have something that holds you back, but everything else is just top of the board, so you can be an 8. Enough said. Then the 9 out of 10 is bridging the gap from great to goated. You know, it's a rare thing, but 9 out of 10 are typically figures that I think are pretty amazing. Generally, anything I give a 9 out of 10, I love, you know, for whatever reason. Could be very good in all of the categories, could fall behind in some, but it's something I personally really find enjoyment in. Then 10 out of 10s refer to things that I think are fucking brilliant. This is top marks, better than everything else at the time, or just the tippy top of whatever I think it should be, you know, whether it be for size class, price point. Hell, it could just be a what do you call it? A design that I really, really like in figure form, you know, so that could help you get a 10. Now, in short, I'm going to change my ranking systems to reflect this new out of 10 format, and I'll be converting all of my previous rankings so far, like up to the release date of this video, to kind of reflect what everything is now, you know, in the new system. That will be one of the next uploads that goes on the channel, and every video that's released from this point onwards will have the out of 10 system, which means new graphic for the ranking part of each video. And yeah, that's just generally it. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you next time, and goodbye.